Listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on automating your web-to-print workflow with Tucanna and Alliant. I really appreciate you being here today. We know your time is precious, and we will endeavor to make this webinar worthwhile to you. My name is Greg Salzman. I'm the president of Alliant System, and I am also joined by Darian Young, who's the president of Tucanna Software. And what we're going to do today is basically give you a brief introduction to Alliant Pressero. We realize that not everyone on the webinar today is familiar with Pressero. You may be already familiar with the Tucanna products, not familiar with Pressero. So we're going to do just a very brief overview of what Pressero can do. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the actual integration between Pressero and Tucanna tFLOW products. We're going to attempt a live demonstration of the integration so you can see everything happen in real time. And then as part of that demonstration, Darian will be giving an overview of Tucanna tFLOW approval as well as the Tucanna tFLOW production. So you're going to get a good look at all the systems. Now, we understand when we're doing a webinar, we're dealing with very sophisticated software solutions, and we need to move pretty quickly. And so we're trying to get kind of the big idea, but you may have some questions as we move along. We're going to have a question and answer time at the end. If you have any questions, you'll be able to enter them in the GoToWebinar control panel. You should see an area called questions, and you're able to type in your questions. You can actually type them in at any time, but we're going to save them for the very end, and then we're very happy to kind of drill down a little bit deeper or clarify anything that you might want to know more about. All right, without further ado, let's take a quick look at Pressero. Pressero is a web-to-print solution, and with Pressero, you are able to publish any number of sites. Now, we have three different flavors of sites. The first kind is what we call an informational site, and our own product site for Pressero, which you can find at Pressero.com, is an example of an informational site. So the idea is that we have a site, there's lots of information, there's no actual web-to-print e-commerce going on, but we can do things like convey information, collect forms, form data, customers could upload files, we can publish Twitter and RSS feeds, we can do social media sharing, etc. And so what's nice is when you get Pressero, you're able to create an informational site, most likely for your printing company, but could be for any other thing as well. So informational site is one flavor of what Pressero has to offer. Another is what's most commonly associated with web-to-print, which is what we call a B2b site. It's often called a customer portal or a corporate store or a corporate portal. There's lots of different names used, but the idea is that you're creating a storefront or a site which is specific to a customer. This is a fictional example. So in this example, we're saying a company called Red Frog is our customer. And the idea is that the employees of the customer can come to the website and they could enter their login and password and have access to the site. Now, inside the site is all the items that you print for them. And so they're able to come in and quickly see what you have to offer. So, for example, I'm logged in as an employee of Red Frog, and let's say I need some new business cards. So I come in here, I see some different business card options. I can click on that, get some information. Maybe I can change the quantity that I need. And then I can come down and begin to customize my business card. And I think you can kind of get the idea from here. Of course, a B2b site is much more than just placing an order. There's a lot of value-added capabilities. For example, we have order history, so customers can always come in, look at their order histories, check the status of their orders, easily place reorders. We also offer inventory control, so if you want to track inventory for your customer and let them have access to it, you can do that as well. We have some asset management capabilities, so you can offer those tools to your customer. They can control who is able to access what type of asset and which particular asset. We have budgetary controls as well. So the idea is that when you create a storefront for your customer, it's much more than just ordering. You're providing an entire solution to them. The third type of product that we have is, or site that we have, is what we call a B2C site, business to consumer site. The idea is that you are selling your printing services to anybody on the internet. The most famous example of this is a company called B2b, which you've probably heard of. This is an example site called myownprintshop.com. You're welcome to take a look at that as well. But the idea is that customers, you can set up a product that customers can come and place orders from you. It's meant to be a very easy e-commerce experience. If they've ordered from Amazon.com, it should be pretty straightforward as to know how to order from you. One thing hopefully you've noticed as we've gone through the sites is that you have a lot of control over the look and feel of the site. And another important thing to point out is that we also use something called responsive design. We're seeing more and more buyers of print using mobile devices, and so we need to make sure that the site will behave properly on a mobile device. If I shrink up my site here, you can see it's quite small now. This is more of a same size as a mobile phone, for example. You can see how everything just automatically reformats, and so that it could be used properly on a mobile device. And again, that's called responsive design. At this point, I've given you a brief overview of the Pressero system, and I'm going to hand the floor over to Darian. Just bear with us as we kind of bounce back and forth. And Darian's going to start to give us a little bit of an overview of the integration that we're going to see.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for the introduction, Greg. Can you let me know if my sound is okay? Can you hear me okay, Greg?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of breakup on the other. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through a short overview about what tFLOW is and how it integrates with Bracero. And then from there we can go ahead and jump over to actually what it looks like when it's running. So what I'd like to introduce here, first of all, what is tFLOW? And it's a common question because there's different components to it. And so the first part here, which is the tFLOW approval area, as we consider a customer service tool, is where we have the pre-flighting, online proofing, collaboration, as well as that's where files are submitted. So it basically replaces the FTP or the Dropbox type of concept. And then as well as, so it's artwork management, and many people use it as well for archival, which we can see a little later, how everything is all stored together in one place. So the second part of that is tFLOW production, and that's more of the back end or the production area part of the system, which again includes pre-flighting. And the reason for that is because we'll see in a little while how there can be two types. So let's say device-specific or output-specific pre-flighting or file fix-ups as opposed to general purposing, but also because the two systems work independently of each other. So they can work together or they can be used independently of each other. So also fix-ups, file repurposing, again, for different types of output. And so here we're basically looking at automating repetitive prepress tasks. But in addition to that, we have it's a color server, a centralized color management platform, and where you can apply ink saving profiles as well, device links, and some simple imposition as well for digital printing. So let's take a look at what a configuration would look like. So we have here, the next question is, why tFLOW? So sometimes things go great, like this, right? The order comes in printed, but oftentimes they don't. And when they don't, this is where all that time comes in. So how the communication is managed between all of these different people, the different players in here, this is where so much time is lost. And this is what we want to solve with tFLOW. And so tFLOW is a different approach. We use what we call a collaborative workflow, allowing people to submit files, get immediate pre-flighting feedback, and if things don't pass, to provide the communication platform for people to interact with each other. And once that stage is passed, then the file can go here to production and then be printed. So it's resolving that mayhem that happens often at the front end when things don't quite go as expected. So looking at here the configuration, what does installation look like with Bracero and tFLOW approval? So the order here is placed at that point in the Pressero storefront. And here then the storefront will send over the artwork together with an XML instruction file. That will include the order number, the job number, the customer information, and so forth, and that will then go into tFLOW approval, at which point tFLOW approval will use the information to create the order of the job. It's going to pre-flight and fix issues in the file, and then it will send an email over to the customer as well as to the customer sales representative that there's an order waiting to be approved, or if it found any pre-flight issues, it would also explain what those are. At this point, the customer has the options of either to approve the file or upload additional files if needed, or include some annotations, instructions. You can do marking up and so forth there as well. And then that can actually go back and forth. That could be, it also does revision handling, so if there was more than one revision, that would all be handled here. And then from here, once the customer has approved it, then here basically would be where you can have the downloadable ready, print-ready file, which can then be put into the workflow, whatever that workflow may be. So the next kind of configuration we can have here is Bracero with tFLOW production. And so this doesn't have any front-end customer service part to it. It's the customer can place the order, and then here the PDF comes into tFLOW production, which again can apply all of those centralized color management, repurposing, file fixing, and so forth, but this is more of an internal process now that can happen. So in a best case scenario would be both tFLOW approval and tFLOW production as a full workflow, where we have here the front end where the customer can place the order, get the file instructions as well as the file, go through that whole collaboration or online approval process, and then once that's been approved, tFLOW production will then come up, find any approved jobs, download them, and then send them off to the assigned output queues wherever they need to go, and that can be multi-site or on a single site. It can go to multiple types of output formats. It's all automated, so that can happen here, and this will then push the print-ready file to whatever the output system would be. So that may be a CTP system or a digital printer, large format printer, whatever those different outputs may be. They can be routed here so automatically. So this can be set up with different stops happening here, or it can be completely automated so that once the job is approved, it can basically appear here at the printer. So I think you want to go ahead and go through a file and see how it goes through the system, Greg?
Sure thing. What's I'm gonna do, just bear with us again while we flip screens back to my side here. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing the screen, and what we're going to do is just actually walk through the process. So first of all, we're going to have to pretend we're a print buyer here, and you see I have Adobe Acrobat open, and inside I have a brochure. Looks like it's a front and the back, and this brochure is actually for tFLOW approval. But the idea is that we want to order, we'll say 500 copies of this. So I'm going to close that out. We're going to come back to this same website we were looking at, and I'm going to scroll down, and I see brochures 8.5 by 11. So I go ahead and click that. And let's say I do want 500. And now it's asking for a file upload, so I'm going to click, and I'm going to select that file for upload. I could do some other things. I could, get some estimate shipping costs and things like that. I could also name my job. I could leave some additional instructions, etc. I'm going to skip that for now. I don't know if you saw that in the lower left. The browser was telling us that it was uploading the file. So we'll give that just a second to complete. Okay. So here it's taking us back to our shopping cart page. So if I look in my shopping cart, I see there is the brochure's product, the quantity is 500, everything's looking good. Now I have a couple options here. I could check out as a guest, but I don't think you want to watch me type in all my information, so I'm just going to log in because I do have an account on here. So we'll log in, and then it will be able to use the information that's associated with the user profile. All right, so at this point I'm going to proceed to the checkout screen, and we'll just go ahead and click Place Order. Gives me a confirmation. And at this point, order number 479 has been placed. Now, what I'm going to do next is show you another tool that you can get for Pressero. It's called the Automated Workflow Integrator. And the idea behind the Automated Workflow Integrator is it's an application that actually runs on your desktop or server, and its goal really is to bridge that divide between a cloud-based service and then what actually happens within your shop. And so we often refer to it as a watchdog. But the idea is that you can set it to continually monitor your Pressero site and look for any new orders that have been placed. And when it finds them, it can not only download the files associated with it, but it can also get the important information like who's it for, what's the quantity, things like that. And depending on which solution that you're using, we can create a vendor-specific JDF or XML or text file to be able to pass on all the pertinent information. We've already created what we call a rule, and we can create any number of rules. I have one rule here, which is basically just monitoring brochures, and then it's also set, if I click this little edit button here, you can see it's looking for brochures, and then it's set to create the Tucanna tFLOW approval. In this case, it's an XML file. We can set the automated workflow integrator to run every so often, and it will just keep chugging away in the background. We can also tell it to manually start. And so we see that it did, and it's hard to see in such small type, but order number 479, it's now processing that order. While we wait, I'm going to just hop into what we call the Pressero admin screen, just to give you a quick look at that. So give me a minute to log in. I have two accounts here. I'm just going to choose which account I need. All right. And when I log in, it immediately takes me to my order screen. And this very first order we see here is order 479. That is, of course, the order that was just placed. If I click that little pencil icon, it gives me, next to the order row, it gives me the ability to manage different aspects of this. So, for example, if I need to grab the files directly, I can. Some reports I can run. I can set shipments. If I need to make changes, I can make changes here. I can record payments, etc. On the left-hand side, just to give you a little bit more information, for example, under Sites, you can see a list of all the websites or sites that is under my Pressero account. If it has a little person next to it, that means it's a B2b site or a corporate portal. If it has an I, it means it's an informational site. And then if it has a little shopping cart, that means it's a B2C site. Now, we had looked at my own print shop. That's where we placed the order. If I click that, I get a lot more detail. I can kind of keep drilling down. So, for example, if I click here on products, I get a list of all the products that we have available on the site. This one right here, brochure, is 8.5 by 11. If I click that little pencil, it will allow me to edit the particular product as well. So you can see Pressero does contain a lot of information, but it's really designed to help you quickly drill down to the area that you need to be. Now let me circle back here and check, and it looks like, if I look at the logs, the AWI was able to successfully push that order over to the Tucanna tFLOW approval system. So at this point, I'm going to, again, hand the floor back to Darian, and Darian is going to show us what happens from here.
Okay, so coming back over here to the diagram, you can see we're going to be following this diagram through. So we've just passed the first step here, step 1, and then with the AWI, the step 2 was just initiated, so we should be somewhere here in step 3. So what I've done is I set up 2 desktops, and so I have desktop 1, which would be the print admin, and desktop 2 would be the customer. So at this point, the system will send out an email to both. So and again, you can configure that to go either way. So both customer as well as admin will be getting email for different orders that come through. But I'm going to go ahead and start from the point of view of the customer. It's going to be very similar, more or less the same. And then we can go over to the print admin. So let's go over here to the customer screen, and so I'm going to go ahead and open up and log in as the print buyer. Okay, so we've kept the interface very simple, very clear, and just to make sure that we don't bog it down with too much Prepress terminology. So basically, a customer can come in here, the print buyer, and see, okay, I have a total of 4 orders, and I have in here 2 new ones. So I can click on the new, and I see, okay, there's 479, that order that I was looking for in there. I can change If I had, of course, several, it's nice to see here in a list view type of mode where I can filter by the different columns. But since there's very few, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the grid view. And so I can see I have 479 here. It's asking me to check the order. I can go ahead and come in, and you see I have the job now waiting for approval. So you can go ahead and click on the job, and so I get a nice preview screen, which you'll see here. It allows me to zoom in and check on the file, look it over, and you see it's quite quick to respond. Also, if it's multi-page, I can see front and back of the brochure. And then over here I have the pre-flight information. So with this particular file, there were no errors. If there were, it would have notified me, and it would have put the file on hold because of pre-flight errors. I see here there's just been some warnings. So I can come over here and check and say, okay, and again, these pre-flight profiles can be set up any way. That's part of the systems. You can set up the pre-flight profiles with any parameters you'd like to use. So in this case, this particular one's set up, so it's alerting us as a warning, so not as an error, but as a warning that there's some text using, it's smaller than 8 points, using more than one colorant. I can see here some transparencies as well, so that's kind of a heads up at, hey, be careful. That those are resolved correctly. And then in the success area, you can see things that were fixed automatically with it. For example, so some downsampling, some images that were too high resolution, some art box things here, so set the black to overprint. So some of the things that fixed automatically. So I can see there were no errors, so the file is okay, but I have the heads up that there were some transparencies involved there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a comment here, and I just want to let people know. I noticed. Okay, so I can go ahead and add a note here, and that note will, of course, pop up in their area up at the top here, but I want to make sure they get it, so I'm going to send that note to customer service here, and I can include any annotation on the file itself if I would like to as well. So I can go ahead and save the note, and then if I go over here, once the note's saved, you can see I can go over to support files, and just in case there was some issue, I can come over here and say, okay, and I'm going to include the original file with it as well, just in case they need that later to resolve the issue. And then over here, I can also include in the notes instructions anything as well that I want them to know. So basically, you can see what we're doing is we're keeping away from going back and forth with a lot of emails. We're keeping all the information centralized. So what I have in here is I have my print file, I have my native files, I have notes instructions. So anything they need, they can just come back here and download or get what they need to get that file through. So at this point here, everything looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and approve it. If not, I could always request a new revision and upload a new version. But again, the file should be okay. And if they have any issues, they can go to the support files. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the job. And so this is basically now ready for production. So let's now jump over to the print admin side. So I'm going to change my dashboard here. Go over to this one. So you see now the customer we've gone here to the 4. So the customer at step 4 has been able to, again, I just did all 3 of these. I uploaded a support file, I made an annotation, and then I also approved the job. So again, these can happen in different steps, obviously. But so I'm going to go ahead and go in here as the print admin. And so I have the same thing up here. So I can see in my own dashboard, you can see as the print admin, you have a lot more information than your print buyer does. So in my dashboard here, we'll have the total jobs. I can filter them by all the different customers I'm working with. I can filter it by people internally here, who's working on which files, the date range up here at top, user stats, activity, my capacity. So I have a lot more information going on. Also here in activity, I can see everything that's happening as well, and these are also links to each one of those files. Everything that's going through, I can check on. So over here at the top, again, I have the same, just as the customer did. I can click on orders, I can click on job and see anything that's waiting approval or that's been approved or on hold. But over here at the top as well, I also am getting notified. So you see here, they made a little message to me, so I can click on that as well. It'll take me right into the file, and I can go ahead and reply back to them. It says, okay, we'll take care. Okay, so at that point here, I just notified them back, and here I have the ability as well. So I can also, if I need the support files, I have the same thing he uploaded to me, so I can just click here to download those if I need them. And what I can do here now is I can prepare, if I didn't already do it before, I can prepare this for where I want it to go now. So I can, again, I have the same listing as just like the customer did. I can go by the thumbnail view. So you can see here in the customer doesn't have this tab, but I do as the print site owner. So I can actually select here where I want this file to go from that point on. So basically here I can assign, okay, I want it to go to this queue or that queue or both of these queues on the output side. So I can already, again, that can be done beforehand or now, predefine where I want this file to go when I go ahead and release it. So at that point here, I can, you see this is the listing of all of my different jobs which are waiting to be released. So I'm going to go ahead and just unclick a few of those. I'm going to go say, let's release a couple of them. So 479, for example, and this one here. We can just release both of those. And then go ahead and release those. And by the way, that can be completely automated. So what I've done here is I've added in the releasing step so you can see what it looks like. But again, that step can be in the system settings taken out so that once it's approved, it just goes right through without waiting for me to release anything. So another thing here that we have is the ability is a filing system. So you can see that within here I have, all of my. I can go ahead and see. I want to see all of my jobs. I can see, every job I have, and I can, go ahead and change that to say by 50 here. So I can see all of the jobs, and then I can filter them by my customer. I can do search here for anything I need. It's very quick to filter everything I'm looking for. And then the nice thing about it is that each of these jobs contains everything, all the history, everything I need. So to show you another example, if I go over here to the Web2Print brochure here, this one, you can see I have, this had 3 revisions through it. So if I go back, I had the original upload, the conversation that happened here, and then a second revision was requested, and going back and forth about the exclamation mark, and they changed their mind. And then over here they approved this final one, which is the one that was approved. And over here I have the original AI file that I needed. I have the pre-flight PDF. I have the print file here. I have the pre-flight log. I have all the support files and any notes instructions as well. So everything here is all stored in one spot. So again, that's a very nice tool to get things in seconds. Everything you need is basically in seconds. It's not in somebody's email stored on some server here, all the pieces in different areas. So I have access to everything I need. So just jumping back here now, so if we go over here, we'll see now that we've gone through step 1, step 2, step 3. They've approved. Now it's over here, and then I release the job from production. I'm sorry, from approval to production. So we should be now going here down to 5, which is in tFLOW production. So let's go ahead and jump over to tFLOW production. And so this is the tFLOW production window here. And what we have in tFLOW production is, again, this will pick up files if it's configured to do so every 2 minutes from, actually it just came in. So this will go up and pick up files every 2 minutes from the tFLOW approval server. The way this works is you have input queues on the left. So input queues can pick up files from tFLOW approval. They can also, you can just drag and drop files on there or use hot folders locally as well. And then the files go from the left side and then they output through the right side. So you can set up any number of input queues, any number of output queues, and these queues can be configured for any different settings. So basically we use these here for repurposing the files for different types of output. So you can work with a master file, and this will repurpose for, if it's going to be for sheet fed printing or digital printing or large format, if it's things like that, as well as flattening transparencies in case you have an older RIP. Other things in here, again, centralized color management, device link color management. You can apply G7 curves in here. It also has its own email notification system that can work with the production manager in case you want to be alerted for any errors, things like that. And also some simple impositioning as well. You can upload your own imposition schemes in here. So on the input side, you see that the file has come through the input queue. It's now stored here in the archive where I can then check on all the file information here. So in the number of color channels, the pages, and so forth. And over here I can see any fix-ups that have been applied if needed. And then any warnings as well that it came up with, just like we saw in tFLOW and tFLOW approval. So if everything is okay, I can go ahead and say, okay, that file is ready to go, so let's just go ahead and, and drop it. And this what I did here, so basically it's this kind of another checkpoint I've set up. But if I wanted to, I could come here to my workflow link and say, anything coming through this input queue, as long as it doesn't get put on hold because of errors, send it directly to, that output queue, or to multiple output queues. So again, if I have, here I want to set up to also do for soft proofing, I can do that as well. So I can set up also workflows. They can come all the way through automatically from input through to the output. So it's really your choice if you want to make it completely automated or kind of set up a semi-automated workflow like I did here. And just to show you one more example, so this one here has been processed. So this file has now gone through, and it's wherever that output's going to be, if that's going to be your own in-positioning program, or if it's going to go right into the CTP or to your digital printer, wherever that may be. Just to show you another quick example, you see this file here that has, again, multiple pages in it. If I drag this onto the digital printing queue, with this particular queue, we set it up to also apply an in-position template to it. So we can see that in just a second here as soon as it's finished processing. So this file has now been processed as well, and you see it's been imposed. So this is now, again, ready. Will be sent off the next step, which would probably be a small format digital or offset printer. And so with that, we've pretty much completed the flow. So we've gone from the customer through the shop, through the approval process, down through production, and this file is now in whatever state that needed to be in. It's there now, and at the final printing stage. So with that, that's pretty much the process.
Excellent. Thank you, Darian. At this point, we would love to have some questions from you. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the best way to ask a question is to use the questions area, which is in the GoToWebinar control panel. Just type your question in. You're going to hear a third voice here in just a second. We've asked Therese McGady, who's in charge of marketing here at Alliant, to kind of sort through the questions and read them out loud for us. So I don't know, Therese, are we ready with any questions?
We are. We have a bunch that have come in here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first one here that's listed says, is there a blogging feature within Pressero? Greg, is that one that you can address for us?
Okay, there is not a specific blogging feature within Pressero. Certainly with Pressero, you're able to create any number of what we call content pages, which are just informational pages. But in terms of a true blog where you can create some content and then people can reply to it and you can reply to them and all that correspondence is listed within the page, that is not something we support. As I alluded to earlier, Alliant uses Pressero as its web platform or CMS for Pressero.com and actually for edoc.builder.com and Alliant.com. And what we use for our blog is actually an external WordPress site. What's nice is that something like WordPress is very affordable, and then we can create a link from the Pressero system. You're able to create navigation menus. Those navigation items can be to external sites, and so we were just able to leverage the navigation to create a link to our blog, which runs off of a WordPress server.
Great. So the next question is, does the customer need a login for Pressero and for tFLOW separately?
No, they don't. So when an account is created in Pressero, we actually will push that information over to the tFLOW approval system. So they don't have to go and create a whole nother account just to get into approval.
Okay, the next one here. When the CSR adds a note to the job, does the print buyer get an automatic notification by email?
Yeah, let me go and address that. So let's go ahead and jump into one here, and you can see what that looks like. So if I go into, let's see, this one, for example. In the notes section, what we've done is we've made that optional. So if you can go ahead and type in a note, and what that will do, if I leave it as it is now, it will up here at the top, you see a little status notification area. That will pop up on their bar up here, always. And if, in addition to that, you select their name here, then they will get an email notification as well. So the reason we did that was it became overwhelming to always automatically send that email for every comment, because a file could have 10 or 15 comments, and sometimes they're not necessary for an email. So it's up to you if you want to include the email notification with it, in addition to the notification at the top.
Okay, great. The next question here reads, do you have any label manufacturers using this system, Darian?
To be honest, I don't know because many times we sell through dealers and distributors, and we see names, but we don't always know who the what kind of printing the end user is doing.
Sure. Okay, the next one up here is, will the file automatically move into production if it passes the presets?
Yes. Yes and no. So that's kind of up to how you want to configure. So there's a setting here. If I go over here to the administration real quick, so if I go over to system settings, in workflow, you see here there's automatic job release. So if I click on automatic job release, it will, as soon as the job is approved, it will automatically release it and go right into production. If it's not selected like it wasn't before, then it will use this waiting for release stage here and allow me to release it when I want to.
Okay. Is tFLOW a SaaS, or do I need to have a local server?
It's both. So we have both options. So actually, what I'm working on right here, right now, is the SaaS. So this isn't here located in our offices. This is actually the SaaS system. So it's up to anybody, your choice, if you want to go for the SaaS option or to purchase the system outright and install locally.
Okay. We have just a few more here. How long does it typically take to get tFLOW up and running?
So tFLOW approval to get it configured and training is usually half day, more or less. Actually, usually less than half day. Let's say half day. And tFLOW production is even a little bit less than that, so probably a couple of hours. So basically, to get up and running, you can be done within the day. To get up and running, it usually takes a little bit more time is to configure the pre-flight profiles, and so what most people do is they start with the ones that already come with the system, and as they work with it and come up with new ideas, they refine those pre-flight profiles, request us to help them do that, and that's kind of an ongoing process. So it's not something that takes place over a week or days or months. It may take it's again small adjustments that can happen as time goes by. So to get up and running is a day or less.
All right. Is Pressero AWI required with tFLOW?
It is required if you want Bracero to automatically hand the file off to tFLOW. So it's required to have that level of automation. Certainly you don't have to use it. You could manually download the jobs out of Bracero and then manually put them into tFLOW if you wanted to.
The next question is, what file formats are supported? How can I have customer files pre-flighted and proofed in Pressero and or eDoc Builder, and how is that different in tFLOW approval?
You want me to do the first part of that, Greg, and then we can see the second part?
Okay.
Okay, so in the job area, so what I'm going to do here, actually, I'm going to just go over the order area. Sorry about that. So when I go into, let's just say any order like this one. So when you do a new job, so this is where you can also do it manually. So you can see here the file formats that it'll take anything. So you can put anything you want in here. You can put movie if you want. But what will happen is if it's a PDF, an Illustrator, EPS, PostScript, TIFF, JPEG, PNG, or any Office format, it will convert those automatically to PDF and it will start to pre-flight. So that's all automated. If you upload something else, which is, again, an InDesign file or a CorelDRAW or a zip file, it will still take it. It just won't it won't convert it automatically to PDF. So again, you still use the system. It'll notify you the job is there, everything's stored together, but it won't be the automated creation of the PDF like we're seeing here. So, but we do have, for example, in the case of InDesign, we do have plugins. I forgot to mention that, by the way, where you can use a connector here to connect to tFLOW approval and already pre-configure the job from InDesign and submit it right here from the native application. So the second part of the question, Greg, do you want to show kind of the difference, what you have with the preview as opposed to what we're doing?
Right. Well, it may be quicker just to talk about it. As many of you who are Pressero users know, Bracero can show a preview of a file that's been uploaded. There are some limitations with not only with file size but also file type. It needs to be either a raster format like GIF, PNG, JPEG, or it needs to be in PDF format. So as long as the customer uploads that, we are able to show a quick preview that they look at. but it's still a far cry from a true pre-flighting capability or from a collaborative, proofing and approval system like you're seeing with tFLOW approval.
Okay, the next question here, can AWI transfer files to different locations or hot folders based on the customers in Pressero?
Yes, so when you create a rule in AWI, there's a number of different rule types, and one of the rule types that you're able to set is based on the what we call the site name. So if it's a B2b site for a particular customer, I'm just going to make myself the presenter here real quick so we can take a look. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing this on my screen here. So what I did within AWI is I have this rule, and of course we can add more rules. But if I edit the one that we already have here, bring that in, we have this rule type, and it can be based on site name. So if you have a B2b site for a particular customer, you can match it off that site name. You could even actually go down to the user level. So if you wanted to grab jobs from a specific user, you'd be able to filter by the user as well.
Looks like the next question here is regarding trapping. Is that something that either of you would be able to expand upon in terms of the feature?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do it. So we don't do trapping. That's generally handled RIP, so we're taking care of everything up to RIP, and so the trapping is generally happening at the RIP level. So that's something we're not doing. I don't think Pressero's doing either, Greg.
No, as Darian said, it's typically associated with the RIP. So.
Okay. Will tFLOW update order status back to Pressero when the files are approved and ready to print?
Oh, that's a great question. Not currently. So we view the integration we have as a first step, and no doubt it will improve over time. And I think one of the opportunities to make it even better is to have a bi-directional communication. So, so for tFLOW approval to be able to communicate back to Bracero, letting it know what has happened with the job.
Okay, just a couple more here. What does tFLOW do when a file issue is identified? Can it auto-notify the customer?
Yeah, actually, that's what it's set up to do by default. So you can set up actually, if you want to pass back over, Greg, real quick. So by default, again, you can configure this, but by default, it's set up to notify. So let's see if I think there's a problem file somewhere in here. One of the ones that has the errors in it. It actually shows the email includes the errors in it, which is quite nice. So this is the, excuse me one second. I had this set up, and more have been coming in as I've been going through this. But yeah, I apologize. Anyway, the email itself will include a description of the pre-flight errors that it finds when they come through here as part of the, I can't find it. Yeah, so here we have, in this case, these jobs are ready for approval, but if it has a pre-flight error to it, they're listed here with a description of what those pre-flight issues are.
Okay, great. There's, I think, one last question here. One of the audience members is just wondering about tFLOW cost range. Darian, is that something you can speak to?
Yes. So the subscription price is $295 a month, and a purchase price is just under $12,000.
Okay, great. Well, that's all the questions that are listed here. If there's any other questions, please go ahead and let us know now, but I think that's about a wrap.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your time today.
Oh, by the way, just before one last thing here, I was able to look. I apologize. they keep popping up in my email even though I erased them. But this is actually a pretty good example of a file here. So this is a one that went on hold. So you see in the other jobs they were able to fix them automatically. This one didn't because it was missing fonts. So you can see this is actually what it looks like when it has errors in it. Okay.
Okay. I think we're all set. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time today.